on a little bit of Hawaiian history and what Hawaiian means in general in terms of cannabis.
Maui Wowie is a legendary sativa that was bred in the 60s on the Hawaiian Islands. Unfortunately, the exact genetics of this hybrid are unknown. Back then, it was one of the first super potent strains with a significantly boosted THC content of around 20%.
And it's rare that science is going to back you up on everything that you believe.
Maui Wowie has a tropical, sweet, pineapple flavor profile. Leaves you uplifted, energetic, and happy.
Hawaii is a trippy place because
it helps to promote calmness, relaxation, and creativity.
So there's not much on Hawaii that's native. Of any kind, anything.
Yeah.
Most things are non-native to Hawaii because it's essentially a volcanic island chain in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things about Hawaii is that Hawaii, I believe, is the only American state that's actually in the tropics. If you're doing something in the United States, in the 50 United States, you don't go through customs the same way as if you're outside of it. There is no wheat, unlike most of what we talk about where Mexican or Colombian or Panamanian or Thai or African or any of this shit. There really is no record of marijuana in Hawaii much before, the 60s or something. So there wasn't really any indigenous cultures cultivating it there. It's rumored, and they certainly were involved, that the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, that was one of the locations that they used to grow cannabis.
Then enters the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. An excerpt from the book Brotherhood of Eternal Love, 1984. 7 of the brothers were found crewing a 96-foot yacht off the western coast of Mexico in 1970. This was no pleasure cruise, as the yacht lay anchored a convoy of small latches put out from the shore, roaring across the open sea and tossing in a swell. The brothers lined the rails as the first of the launches cut into the engine, bobbing gently. None of that matters. Tied alongside the yacht, Mexicans on board the launch began to pass up bales. The yacht took on board 1,500 kilos of the best Mexican marijuana before hauling up the anchor and turning westward towards Maui. The yacht was only one way of moving marijuana in bulk without meeting the problems and risk of overland travel. Padilla had his papa men bringing the pot out of the boat with the launch motor after motor launch arriving. Padilla had his papa men bring the pot out to the boat with motor launch after motor launch arriving and dropping off the valuable cargo. It was 5 guys who had never sailed in their lives, now on board with 1,500 kilos of the Mexican weed that would become known as Maui Wowie. A self-styled spiritual warrior and Brotherhood man, Eddie Padilla, would come to the bridge between the last owner and the Agafe, and the Brotherhood where she would be consigned for a time to the ignoble pursuit called drug smuggling. Eddie was driving 500 pounds of marijuana to San Francisco one foggy night when he had a premonition that something wasn't right. It wasn't. He was arrested the next day in what was the biggest bust in San Francisco's history at the time. In 1967, He was tried and convicted and sentenced to 5 to 15 in San Quentin. He was given 30 days to get his affairs in order. On the last day, he skipped out to Mexico, to Papa, Pedro Aveles Perez, the biggest drug lord in Mexico at the time. Eddie had already come up with the idea to get a boat. His dream, he called it, where he and other Brotherhood members would sail back and forth between Pakistan and the United States, bringing their form of enlightenment to the masses, LSD and hashish. To put it in mild term, let's just say, I do not find that believable as any kind of actual enlightenment, but I digress.
Before helicopters flew. And so as a result of that, a lot of the common strains back then, Mexican, Colombian, that kind of thing, could be grown successfully out there. Hawaiian basically is a catch-all term for anything you grow in Hawaii. What used to be grown out there was some combination of Colombians, Mexicans, Thais, and then some of that stuff was mixed with Afghans. Hawaii used to be a pretty bomb place to grow cannabis. And then the problem is when the helicopters started flying in the early 80s and stuff, there's not very much land mass in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So it's not like Northern California or other areas where they just have this vast area to search.
Yeah.
There's, volcanic areas that it's really easy to see if there's weed growing. There's jungle areas that are unsuitable. There's only so many, human habitation areas. And so the area they have to cover is pretty small. So there was a big boom in the 60s and 70s of people growing out there. And then as soon as the helicopters started flying, a lot of people got Hawaii kind of ceased being an export place on any major level. I'm not saying that it wasn't, some of it still didn't exist, but a lot of it moved into greenhouses, it moved onto the edge of jungles. It became really difficult to get off any kind of large scale stuff.
Yeah.
Because the islands are so small. So when Matt did his interview with Greg, I think was the very first Breeder Syndicate interview, he talked about, he thought that the Hawaiian that they were using in NL5 was some blend of Mexican and Colombian. Would have been pretty common because that would have been two of the main seeded weed imports that were coming into America at the time. Hawaiian is definitely, in that it's in the lexicon, right? Mm-hmm. And someone just said, "Oh, Maui Wowie." Maui Wowie is kind of like Matanuska Thunderfuck or this or that or whatever. It's a catch-all term.
It was originally made by a guy named Fast Eddie from the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. So there really was a Maui Wowie at one time. Unlike Matanuska Thunderfuck, we can't trace it to one person, but that one we can. But what has become Maui Wowie, I think most of what we see as Maui Wowie are mostly Afghan dominant types.
The seeds of that haul became what was to be known as Maui Wowie. Spiritual warrior, Maui Wowie, the holy grail of my pot-smoking youth, one of the most famous strands of marijuana in history. When Padilla tells me he played a major role in its advent, my already strained credulity nears its breaking point. I spent months looking into Padilla's stories. Finding Maui Wowie seeds may be a complex process. The best way to start growing would be from a clipping. Be sure to provide your plant with nutrient-rich soil and consider using volcanic soil to mimic its environment. Indoor flowering time is about 9 weeks, and outdoor growers can plan to harvest it in early to mid-October. The strain can yield around 400 to 500 grams per plant. That's an excellent yield worth the amount of labor and maintenance needed. When Maui Wowie first hit the scene, its potent high caught everyone by surprise. Today it's considered a rather mild strain. The ceiling for the THC percentage typically caps at around 19%, with a very low CBD presence. Since its beginning in the volcanic island soil, Maui Wowie has spread across the world to bless us with its sweet pineapple flavors and high energy euphoria. Lightweight effects allow your mind to drift away to creative escapes, while Maui Wowie is motivating Active effects may be all you need to get you outside and enjoy the sun.
I'll buy that!